We all know the drudgery of assessment. Paper after paper after paper to grade or take if we're a student, right? Well, what about online environments? What are we going to do there? What's going to happen when we shift our focus to the web? This is the story of this particular program. Are we talking about cases students are analyzing? Are we talking about presentations they might be making online? Are we talking about peer editing activities, web explorations, critiques? There are so many types of activities online that complicates the assessment practices. There also are a myriad assortment of goals that you might have for your class, whether it's teaming skills or critical thinking. And then there's the issue of the subject matter area, the class size, the technologies employed, student motivation. I mean, there's so many variables here in the area of assessment. We have to think about, is it a public or a private assessment? Is it going to be process-based or product-based? Formative, daily, or summative at the end? Teacher or student-led? One score, a holistic score, or dimensions of ideas, of quality criteria, if you will. Completeness, relevancy, coherence. Is it going to be quantitatively scored or qualitatively? There are many issues you have to get at in understanding online assessment. Doing versus receiving knowledge. If it's an educational simulation, have they completed the simulation? How long did it take? Did they write a reflection paper around it? What are the quality of their solutions? If it's an online discussion forum, how many times have they participated? What's the quality of that participation? Do you have reflection papers on it? So we need to think about the difficulties of our online assessments and the matches between the activities we engage in and our actual assessment practices. If they're watching podcast shows, what is it that you're going to evaluate from the podcast watching or viewing? Is it, in fact, discussions wrapped around the podcast, papers wrapped around it, tests on the concepts, interviews on the podcaster themselves? If they're watching keynote talks from conferences, are they writing papers on it, interviewing the keynote, making presentations on it? What might it be? If you bring in guest experts to your class, are they discussing that expert, reflecting on the expert, brainstorming questions for the expert, inviting the expert? So we have to think about the assessment and how you'll do the assessment, as well as how peers might, experts might, self-assessment, and then how it links with your course management system, right? How you might turn in the grades, post the grades, and synchronize it with the registrar's office, whether you're using Oncourse, like here at Indiana University, and the Oncourse course management system and gradebook, or you might be using Moodle, as my friends in Australia, where I recently was, for the Moodle Moot Conference, are fully ahead and using, under Martin's leadership there, the Moodle man. Or you might be using Angel, recently acquired by Blackboard, or Respondus assessment system embedded in some of the course management systems, or Question Mark. Or if you want portfolios like PubblePad or ePortfolio, what is it that you're looking to do? Are you wanting multiple choice exams, quizzes, cases, or some kind of deliverable? Most people in the online environments my research team and I have been exploring are using group deliverables, projects, reflections, quizzes. The Kelly Direct Online MBA program in Indiana, for instance, does a lot of asynchronous discussions, cases, problem analyses, quizzes. Many people rely on group work plus individual work, not so much peer evaluation, not so much critique or concept mapping or portfolios. What they do rely on are maybe field reports, essays. So research shows that peer editing, portfolios, concept mapping, not used quite as much. At least my team's research under the leadership of Dr. Shixuan Liu, who left Indiana a couple of years ago, looked at 5 master's programs and what they do in terms of assessment. And really, this is the summary of what she found. And, it's reflections and critiques and essays, just like in a face-to-face kind of classroom setting. But be flexible, be explicit, state your course goals and objectives, There are so many ways to teach online. That means there's so many ways to assess what happens, right? If you're going to do online discussion, grade participation, but what aspects of it? If you're going to grade reflections, you might look for coherence of their field reflections, completeness, relevancy. Or you might have them summarize what they learned during the field in a paper, circling the concepts that they learned that link to the class. If you're doing a concept map of what they've learned by chapter, grade the connections, the linkages, the depth. If they're doing a podcast video, maybe grade the design, synthesis, creativity, coherence, right? If you do podcast shows, wikibooks, all these are design products. Look at the creativity. Look at the organization, but also maybe look at the helpfulness that the students provided to others within their groups that might be producing similar products or might be working with them in different stages along the way. Are they being a good team member? In chats, are you not only participating in the chats, but are you reflecting on multiple chats, synthesizing across them from the experts or book authors that you might bring into your class? Look for the creative insights, connections that they're making within their papers. If you bring in Don Tapscott, who wrote Wikinomics and Growing Up Digital, or if you watch a video on the web where he's interviewed, there are many criteria for student papers, student discussion, student polling about what they thought of it. You, in fact, might have students doing surveys and polls weekly. Those might not be graded. It might just be part of the class. Not everything needs to be graded. Case analyses might look for coherence, insight, peer feedback. You might look for comparison and contrast between cases, case-counter-case solutions. But compare your online class to your face-to-face. Are there significant time differences that you're encountering? Can you reasonably, really think you can grade all that stuff? I mean, on the web, students want feedback on everything they do, and you can't do that. Get peers involved, get experts involved, get self-assessment. Critical friends can give feedback and might even grade part of it. Set aside days or times for giving that feedback, calendar days in the week for the assessment work. Maybe even cut and paste things out from previous semesters for common feedback that students encounter. Those are just 5 things. There's more. If you've got more than 25 or 30 students in an online class, maybe ask for some grading help. I need a little help here. Help me, people. Use summary comments maybe where you might find that applicable if students are all asking the same questions. Grade some tasks maybe quantitatively for mastery. If they've done it, they get a grade, they get a score. If they haven't done it, they don't. Instead of grading everything qualitatively, which you'll go crazy doing, but you do some that way. Maybe sample work in a portfolio, and then provide detailed expectations in your online syllabus. That's extremely important for your students to know where you're going and what you're expecting from them. Post some examples of previous semester work. Raise the bar higher and higher every time, anonymously, with permission, of course. Grade something early so you know that their passwords work. You know they're active in the course. You know they're involved. And maybe get testimonials and feedback from them that you can include next time around or from previous students. Maybe track changes as you grade their papers so they get specific feedbacks and enable them to give you their work in multiple ways, whether it's through email, fax, snail mail. Give them a pattern, an expectation, maybe a ritual for turning in assignments, uploading and downloading in the course management system's fine. But not everything needs to be graded. Not everything. There's so much out there that students might get peer feedback on. And when you do give feedback, give clear feedback. Don't just use the same words repetitively over and over again. And then when you do get some sense of what does work, share that with others that you work with. Attend workshops with them, retreats, and borrow and bake lunches on assessment. Take advantage of what your learning center might offer you or your instructional consulting office. Here at Indiana University, we have great instructional consulting support that can help you think about where you're going within your online assessment practices. So think carefully, because assessment is a key to everything else. There's so much possible here. This almost could have been 2 shows, right? Good luck with your assessments. Watch the PowerPoints.